Sounds good. Just warming up the voice here in the morning. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to everyone joining here for the last episode as we wrap up the series with a third and final webinar
Mhm.
on the title From Good to Great. And whether it's your first time joining or you've been attending other webinars, just hang tight because I know that Henrik, he's always got new and fresh ideas to share. And Henrik, for those of you who doesn't know him already, he's the CEO and the master trainer at Acuity World. And he's got more than 25 years of experience transforming both leaders and companies worldwide with the tools and the techniques that he's developed through his work with Acuity World. And I've had the privilege of not only been co-hosting this webinar, but also the two former ones. So I'm always excited to come here and get new perspectives and dive more into what all this can help us do if we want to take our leadership, our personal leadership, to the next level. So I also want to encourage everybody to tap in and let us know maybe in the comments of where you're joining from. It could be the country or company that you're from, because this webinar is definitely for people that wants or thinks that they can improve, especially within sales and leadership. So if you don't believe that, this might not be for you. But with that being said, also you could think about in the coming year, what would you like to succeed with? And if you like, please share so in the chat. I will keep an eye out in the chat if you have any questions or comments, perspectives that you'd like to explore a little bit deeper. Just feel free to share because we're doing this in a way where it's a bit more interactive. We can see everybody here, and I know that Henrik appreciates that as well. So without further ado, today we will talk about how you can lead yourself and your employees to become trusted advisors. And Henrik, you're going to share some perspectives on how to make this happen,
Yeah.
especially leading with focus on behavior rather than on sales numbers, KPIs rather than KPIs. Why is that, Henrik?
Yeah. Again, simply because it makes more sense, and not only sense, but also more dollars. And I think by the end of the day, I think that's what most sales leaders are actually interested in. And that's also what sometimes sabotage their work, because a lot of sales leaders I meet, not only in Denmark or Europe, but yeah, all over the world, are really heavily focusing on their Excel sheet. I still remember I was out in Australia, in Sydney, running training for one of our global accounts there. And one day I went into the general manager's office to just give him an update. And he was sitting there next to his big screen, with all numbers. And he was happy. He was a happy guy because there was great numbers on the screen. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't know your numbers. But I have this idea that if you're leading from numbers, I basically understand that what you're doing is you're leading from the past. Because when you look at the numbers you have today, they are the results of the behavior which have been in your organization last month, 6 months ago, 1 year ago. And I always ask this question to the participant of our trainings: how much can you change the behavior of yesterday? How much can you change the behavior of last month? How much can you change the behavior from half a year ago? And unless you are a very developed spiritual creature, you can do nothing about it. And again, if you lead by numbers, if you lead by sales results, there is this risk that you will end up making your whole organization very reactive, because everything you discuss is something you can do nothing about. You cannot change the fact that the numbers look like the way they look today. So we are much more in favor of discussing what you actually can impact. And that's the behavior of today and tomorrow and next month, and also what you can do maybe in February and March. So that's why I strongly recommend leaders to really much more look on the future behavior than the behavior of the past. Sometimes I also say that if you lead by looking at the numbers, it's like driving a car looking in the rear mirror. And I wouldn't feel safe. to do that. But nevertheless, that's how a lot of sales managers are being brought up to lead their organizations. And I also understand why, because of course it's the numbers in the Excel sheet are much more certain than the numbers in the future. You get that? Because you don't know the future yet. So it's more comforting to talk about something which is actually raw, solid data than something you don't really know about yet. But nevertheless, I would say that the more you in a way adjust the way you think and focus to really direct it towards the future you want to create, and then ask yourself the question, what kind of behavior do I truly believe would give me the numbers I would like to see in the future? The more proactive thinking you are having, and the more you can help the people around you to actually do something which lead to what you want to see in the future. So my first small question to you, and I know maybe this is an easy question, is that in your context, in the business you are active in, what kind of behavior do you believe will lead to the results you would like to see? And this is actually a question where I would like to have some input, because I would like to have a sense of whether we understand this behavior word in the same way. So please come up with some examples of behavior you would like to see in yourself and in the people around you. And Martin, since you are in the middle of my screen, I will attack you first. So please unmute. So can you give me an example of behavior which you think would be actually adding value and creating some of the results you would like to see in the future?
Well, what works for me and I'm not a manager or leader, I'm just sweeping the floors, bottom of the food chain.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, empathy is really a key important thing for me to have as a behavior in our everyday business. I usually say empathy. I usually say to my colleagues, I see them more than I see my own family. So we need to act around with respect and empathy in terms of treating each other in the right way.
Yeah. So again here, I don't disagree with you that empathy is really, really important. So, and I wouldn't say that it's a behavior. It's more capability or a skill. But what is it that a person is doing which allow you to understand that they're having empathy?
To have the attention towards me and really look interested in whenever we're discussing and having a dialogue, and not being fluttering around with the phone or another screen, or really asking, how are you feeling? How are you doing with this and that? Stuff like that. So really be on a more, I won't say you can say a personal level, but not a private level.
Yeah.
There is some difference. So as long as you get some kind of connected with the person.
I think now you're sharing what I typically define as behavior. So
the right way.
So when the person, when you have an interaction with the person and you can actually observe that they are focusing on you, because they look at you and not everyone, and that they actually in a way are interested because they ask question about you, not privately, but more professionally. So they actually so they ask the right question and they are focused.
Exactly.
That's two good examples, and that prove that they are maybe an empathetic person. Trust me, I have also met people who are really focused and ask a lot of questions that are totally psychopaths. So again, but done in the right way, that would lead you to at least the impression that, wow, this is an empathic person. But I wouldn't define empathy as a behavior. You understand the difference?
Absolutely.
I also hear, when I ask this question to managers in our trainings around the world, sometimes they also say, wow, I would like to see that my people are motivated. I would like them to be active. But again, what does that mean? So when I talk about behavior, it's something you can actually observe people are doing, like asking questions, being focused. It could also be that you could see that they're actually going out, meeting clients. When they're having clients, they are starting out the meeting by creating a clear frame of the purpose of the meeting, by the way they start the meeting with a yes set or whatever they do. They ask open questions, not closed questions. They are pacing the customer by maybe matching and mirroring what they're doing. They show up at the agreed time. I know, but you understand. I think again, if you cannot observe it, if you cannot see it, if you cannot hear it, it's not behavior the way we define it. And again, I often see that it's so simple, this idea, but it's not that easy, because again, a lot of managers haven't been trained to actually pay attention to behavior. Again and again, they're being trained to look at the numbers. So I think if you want to be really good at not only leading yourself, but also leading others, you need to understand what behavior you believe create the results you want. Not only the macro behavior. You could say a macro behavior could be that, wow, he's really good at organizing his time. He's good at setting goals, but also the micro behavior, the behavior you would like to see happening when they're actually interacting with you and your customers and their colleagues. Because I would claim that it's the sum of that behavior that either create the numbers you want or sabotage what they're doing. You know, in Denmark, we have this saying that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I don't know. I think it's the same in English.
It's a classic. Yeah.
It's a, so again, being positive, fine. Being motivated, fine. Being happy, fine. But I think the more you're able to actually pick up what behavior you have in the organization and how well that actually match what you would like to see, the more you can start to actually lead effectively on behavior. You can start to say, no, thank you to that behavior. You can start to say thank you and yes to the behavior you would like to see more. But if you as a manager are not aware of what behavior you would like to see, how can you give effective feedback? How can you lead? The answer is not at all. So again, what we do in our personal leadership program is that we basically bring a much sharper awareness to the micro behavior that create results. So that you can, over time, give the right feedback to your people. And not because you want to control them, not because you want to do micromanagement, but simply if you cannot give this micro behavior feedback, how can you help them become successful? So I see sales leadership is much more like being a tennis coach. It's really about being able to give this subtle, small feedback to your people so they actually know exactly what to do to hit the ball the right way. And if you cannot do that, maybe you are more a sales manager than a sales leader. So any question to this idea before we move into we have to go deeper than this, of course. But before we move deeper, any comments or questions in relation to this behavior part?
I have one.
Yeah.
I'm kind of assuming that that I suppose also when going a bit deeper into this, I would imagine that you would also distinguish a little bit between which markets that you're operating in, which types of customers you're having, and which types of employees you might be having, and where do they originate from, which industries, and so on. So I would imagine that there would be some distinguishment between which behavioral aspects would be smart to apply or to utilize in various industries and so on.
So is it a question?
Yeah, it's more. I guess my comment would then be as I see it, and then maybe you would disagree, but as I see it, that there would be a huge difference to which behaviors that would have a positive impact depending on industries, markets, types of employees, and so on.
Yeah. And I would say that I disagree 95%.
Okay, super.
Meaning that I actually agree 5%. So if you do business in Japan, maybe you should not shake hands, but you should do both. But I think, again, even Japanese people are humans. And Danish people are humans. People from Culpeper in US are humans. And there's much more that's alike than different. So when you go into the micro behavior, we have been doing our trainings all over the world, not on Antarctic yet, but Greenland, yes.
Yes.
And what I see is that 98% of the micro behaviors which will create success in US will also create success in China or in Varde or in Hamburg. It's the same micro behavior. I think there's also a small amount of what I would call cultural traits you need to be sensitive to, yes. But it's a very small part.
Okay, so basically for you, whether you would be addressing, let's say, a 24-year-old professional in the hospitality industry, you would say that the same behavioral aspects would apply to that person than if addressing a 55-year-old business school alumni in a CEO in a big company. So it's universal.
Yes, I would say that coming back to Martin's example from earlier, if I meet a 55-year-old business alumni guy who don't have the capability of really focus on me when I interact with him, I would teach him how to stay focused. If he don't know how to ask questions which allow me to have the sense that he have empathy, I would teach him that.
But would you have your sales personnel address these two people by the same behavioral standards? Would they have to utilize the same techniques if your staff were talking to the 24-year-old or the 55-year-old? I mean, or would there be micro behavioral aspects that you would change in that? And I know you're welcome to dismiss me and move on if you want to. If you have
no. It's that's the reason why we have this as an interactive workshop. I'd rather cover what you have on your mind than what I made up yesterday morning when I prepared for this workshop. So I would say that it's always depending on the person, more than whether they're 24 years old or 55 years old. So again, I think what I'm saying to you here in the first part is that to be a successful manager, you need to have a template of what behavior you believe creates success in your context. And then you need to look at each individual and say, wow, which of this behavior does this person already master? And then praise them for that. And then in your mind, make a note of what behavior you would like to see more of, and then start to make that happen. You run a very big risk if you are, what should I say? If you are leading from, wow, this person have this degree, so therefore I shouldn't do this, or this person is from this country, so I'm much more for, this is also why we call our program the personal leadership program, because we are focusing on the person in front of us, not what we assume they should know or shouldn't know. We actually want you to pay attention to what's actually going on in the interaction. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's move on, because again, it's not enough to focus on behavior. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you can go to a person and say, wow, I really would like you to do more of this and less of that. But if their underlying thinking is not supporting the behavior you want them to do, they will only do the behavior when you are observing them. You understand? So if they don't believe that, wow, I will become a success if I do what Martin tell me, they will not do it if Martin is not there. Unless you put up camera and videotape people and in most countries we don't do that yet. So again, if you really want to be effective in leading behavior, sometimes you also need to make sure that people are thinking the right way and thinking the right thing, so that what they're thinking and how they're thinking actually support the behavior which is needed to get the results you want. And again, we are focusing on which values a person is having. We are talking about the beliefs they're having, but we are also talking about the mental strategies they're having, which allow them to actually do what you would like them to do. So an example here could be that if you have a salesperson who in their mind, every time they need to call a customer, see an angry face in their mind of a customer. Would that be useful thinking in terms of making them effective to reach out? Of course not. So sometimes you need to know how to help your people put the right picture in their mind, so that they can actually do what they and you want them to do. And some of the things we teach you in the personal leadership program is to actually go in and help people think more effectively. And this is where we are tapping into the whole technology of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which offers some of the best tools I have ever encountered in help people to optimize their thinking. And again, this sounds very simple because it is. Is it easy? Yeah, when you can do it, yes. But for most people, what they think and how they think is what we call pre-conscious. It's something which happens so fast that they don't really pay attention to it. And if you're not skilled in picking up some of the unconscious cue a person is having, it's not easy to help them think in an optimal way. You understand here that you're thinking things you're aware of, but you're also thinking a lot of things you normally don't even think about, because it's basically it's so normal for you that it's almost hidden. I had a student some years back who, when we talked about this, said, wow, that's interesting, because I had a friend who studied NLP, and she asked me whether we could practice something. And then she said, think of a person where you have which you have a bad relationship with. Yes, that's easy, my boss. I said, okay, what picture do you see when you think of your boss? And they say, I see this angry face in front of me. And then her friend said, okay, so please take that face and then put a smile on the face. Okay, I can do that, yes. And then Santa Claus hat on top of the head. Okay, I can do that. Okay, and then some Christmas music like Jingle Bell, Jingle Bell, Jingle all the way. Can you do that? And then of course she started to smile when she was looking at this smiling face with looking like Santa Claus. And then she told me the next morning, at that time she was working in a small shop in Odense. She had the task of opening the shop the day after. And when the boss arrived at 10 o'clock, when the shop was to open, she came in the door smiling for the first time ever. And then you can say, wow, this is a miracle. No, it's not. I think what happened was that when this person heard that the door was opening, she was and saw her, wow, this is the boss. Now she saw this new picture in her face, and then she started to smile. And when the boss saw her smile, she smiled. So you understand, by changing how you think and what you think, you can impact some of the unconscious behavior, which will lead to the results you actually want. A smile from your boss. Simple idea. So any questions in relation to the thinking part, because I would like to move deeper. You can give me small signals. So John, any questions? No, okay, good. Yeah, that's a no signal. Thank you. So I get confused when you do this, because for me, this means yes. No, so again, we have said that if you want to create results, the results you want in the future, you need to focus on the behavior you believe will create those results for you in the future. To make sure that you get the sustainable change in behavior, you need to make sure that the underlying thinking support the behavior you actually want. And there's tools to make that happen. But again here, that's not enough. Because again, if the underlying emotional and feeling state is not supporting that way of thinking, you will not get the thinking that leads to the behavior which leads to the results you want. Because what we know today is that the feelings a person is having is much more impacting the thinking than the thinking is impacting the emotions. So if you as a leader don't have high emotional intelligence, you will not be able to create the right thinking and the right behavior. And when you ask me, what do you mean by emotional intelligence? I mean that the way I see it is that people who have high emotional intelligence, they are good at picking up how they feel themselves and how other people are feeling. And then they are very skillful in changing the feeling they have themselves and the feeling other people are having, so that they and their employees have the feelings which actually support the employees in thinking the right way so that they can have the right behavior. So again, and for me, it always starts with yourself. And this is really where we spend quite some energy in the personal leadership program, is to make you more emotionally aware. Because if you're not aware of how you're feeling, you will not be an effective leader. Because a lot of people, they run around not feeling the way they want, and they don't really notice, because they believe that, wow, that's the way it is when you are at work. Sometimes I ask people, so do you have the energy when you wake up in the morning, the energy of just getting out of bed because, wow, another day, or is it heavy? And a lot of people, especially, in mid-50, maybe mid-40, they have come to the belief that it's normal to be heavy in the morning, not really getting out of bed fast. You understand that there's people like that in the universe. And again, maybe it is useful to just notice that that's the case. Wow, I'm actually in the morning a little heavy, okay? So that you can start to say, wow, what can I do about that? Maybe I should go to bed a little earlier, or maybe I should create a life where there's something exciting to get up to in the morning. These are the two big things you can do. So if you have a shitty job, no surprise that it's difficult to get out of bed in the morning. If you have a fantastic job and it's difficult to get out of bed, maybe you need to go to bed earlier. I don't know. That's the two bigs. But you understand that if you are not noticing how you feel yourself, you don't know where you're starting from. So that's one thing. The other thing is that knowing how you like to feel is equally important, because the better you understand how you would like to feel, the easier it will be for you to actually go to that feeling. And when we talk about personal leadership, it's not only about how do you get the right behavior. It's not only about how do you get the right mindset. It's literally, how do you cultivate the right emotional state in yourself and your employees? Yeah. Truth. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask to clarify. Is it correct that you kind of state that emotions governs thinking more than thinking governs emotions?
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
Yeah, just clarifying.
I was doing a lecture for ledernes hovedorganisation here the other day, and there was one of the participants said, yes, actually now new research proved that it's 80-20. So 80% emotion govern thinking, 20% thinking govern emotion. So, and it's simply because the energy is much more going from the body up than from the head down. Yeah. I know this contradicts how a lot of psychologists, how a lot of people think. And there was this guy in France many years ago, Emile Couet, who did this self-suggestion thing where he said, well, if you say to yourself, look in the mirror, wow, I'm great, then you will be great. But actually, today we have more effective tool to change your emotional state than look in the mirror and try to lie to yourself. So I think what we teach you on the personal leadership program is how you can actually somatically, with your body, do things which will change your emotional state, because it's much more easy to do something with your body than to do something in the middle of your brain. So what we teach you is basically to become aware of your own, positive signals, so that you can trigger yourself to become the way you want. But also we will teach you how to read your colleagues' tells, so that you can help them to be great and feel fantastic for no good reason. And I will claim that working in sales, if you don't know how to be okay before you win the deal, you don't have a lot of chances. So in a way, you need not to be dependent on getting the deal to be okay. You understand? I think this is crucial. Because if you need the deal to be okay, the customer will too easily take you as hostages. You need to be able to show up at the customer not needing the deal, because you are emotionally already totally okay. Because this is where you are free to think more creatively. And this is from this position, you are able to do the right thing, which will more likely lead you to actually get the deal. So let me share a slide, because again, we love slides in a QC world. So much so that we are not using PowerPoints at all, because we really don't believe that creates the best learning environment. But I think, let me share just one slide here. Give me a few seconds, and let me see if I can find this here on my, just a moment. So typically, just a moment here. So a meta strategy you can be thinking about if you want to do what we have talked about up until now is that this is this picture. Because when you interact with yourself or one of your colleagues, you can either focus on the past, you can focus on the present, or you can focus on the future. And even though, of course, you're always in the present, you can be thinking about, what did I do yesterday? What am I doing here now? I think maybe that would be a good question to ask yourself. What the hell am I doing here with Henrik and Frederik this morning? And then you can think about, wow, how can I apply this in the meeting I have this afternoon or tomorrow? The other dimension we have put in here is whether you are focusing on what we call the present state minus the problems, the issues, what's not working, or whether you focus on the present state plus, so what's already working for you. What we see is that if you want to create an optimal emotional environment in your organization, it's typically not useful to focus on what's not working, what people do wrong. where you are behind in relation to budget, because people typically hate, or they don't like to talk about what they don't do well. So what you can do instead is that you can shift and start a conversation focusing on what's already working, what people are doing well. Because besides getting some very useful information, you will also bring them into an emotional positive state. Because what basically happens if you start a meeting or an interaction with a person saying, wow, I have observed your behavior, and I can see that you are doing this and this and this wrong, and I would like to talk to you about it. People get defensive. People go mentally into what you could call survival mode, where they basically go in fight and flight. And now they will start to defend even bad behavior. They will start to explain that it's not their fault. And then you ask them, okay, but what do you want? And then they will tell you this desired state. And what they basically want is to get rid of the unpleasant situation. What we recommend, if you want to be a real personal leader, is that you make a conscious choice of ignoring what's not working in the beginning of a meeting and start to focus on what is the person actually doing right? What are they doing well? What behavior do they show that you actually want them to continue to have? And then start the discussion there. Because if you start focusing on what they do well, they will relax. They will go into a positive emotional state. That will impact their thinking, saying, wow, I'm good. I can do things. I'm actually a success. And that will lead them to set much more ambitious goal for what they want in relation to their behavior going forward. From the PS minus, people cannot tell you about what they really want, their DS++. They can only tell you about the absence of the problem, the DS. So my point here is, if you want to be a really effective personal leader, don't focus on numbers, focus on behavior. Don't just focus on behavior, but focus on the behavior that's already working well, and use that as the starting point for the growth of the people around you. It will create a much more engaging and motivating environment to work within. And it will, in a way, help people actually want to do better because they feel appreciated. They feel that, wow, you're actually empathic, not because you play, but because you actually show it. And it will lead to much higher, but also much more sustainable outcome for you and your organization. Any questions or comments in relation to this one? Or is it self-evident? I can see that Troels, you are breathing. Does it mean you have a question?
No, I'm just alive. That's all.
Okay. Great. Fantastic.
So keep breathing, Troels.
Yeah.
Keep breathing. It's
Yes,
good.
I will.
John here from Europa Coffee and Tea, Norway. Thank you for an interesting point. I really can stand behind what you're saying here. From my experience, it also making sure that a sense of accomplishment. I compare it. Well, it sounds bad when I say it out loud, but I compare it to dog training. You have to make sure that they succeed, because if they fail, they just build that negative past bank full of bad impressions. So you have to really make sure that people succeed, and this comes down to all little aspects. So when you're starting focusing on the positives, you have to make sure that the bar is low enough for them to jump. So they want to jump more and want to focus on the positive.
Yeah. I think it's a great example. And then, of course, you could say, but isn't dogs different than salespeople and sales leaders?
No.
I would say that we are much more, alike than different when it comes to training behavior. And I think good dog trainers know this, and they know exactly what micro behavior they want to see in the dog. And that's why they're so brilliant, because they can give the dog the feedback in the right moment, so that the dog really know, wow, when I flex this muscle, wow, I'm doing right.
But also the right amount of correction.
Yes, yeah.
Just
Yeah. And the more they get the yes, the more they continue to do the right behavior. I would like to see more sales managers, sales leaders in the world who could do what great dog trainers do. Not because I don't believe that they have intelligent salespeople, but I see too many salespeople who are left to themselves to guess and figure out, wow, how can I become a success? They're not being helped. They're not being actually coached with enough attention and precision. And in our personal leadership program, we want to change this. We want to really help sales leaders become fantastic sales leaders so they can help their salespeople become successful. Not just because the company wants to earn money, but because I think, again, if you have an employee who have this sense that as long as I work for you, my skills improves, they will stay. And so it's really about creating a sustainable system. And the more you are able to do this with your salespeople, the more they can go out and have great meetings with customers. Coming back to the basic idea we described in our new book, Satisfaction Selling, which actually this week have become a bestseller on Amazon. Now we even have the gold stamp. It's the same idea we think about when we talk about sales. So instead of going out and using pain-based and fear-based sales method to scare customer into buying, we much more believe in building a burning desire and then operate from there. So it's the same method. And if you basically train your people the way you want your people to train the customers, I think you get a very powerful system. So we have another 5 minutes, and I would like just to open up for questions before we start to round up here. So any questions in relation to setting goals, in relation to behavior, thinking, feelings, emotional intelligence, and the starting point? Or have everything been explained perfectly? Okay, so what you could ask is, when can we start? When can we start this journey? And I would say you can start in January or in March. And again, you can dip your toe by attending a 3.5 days training, or you can sign in for the first year of our personal leadership program. Yes, Troels?
Yeah, I was just wondering, in the very beginning, you asked the question to, I believe it was Martin, describe some behaviors.
Yeah.
But I think it would just be interesting to hear you list, let's say, 5 or 6 examples of behaviors that you consider. I'm sure we're all familiar with them, but it would be interesting to hear you list 5 or 6 behaviors that you consider to be particularly beneficial in this. I mean, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, but I think to mention a behavior that I find is really beneficial is to be able to backtrack the person you interact with. So the fact that I can use the word beneficial because you used it is a good behavior.
Yeah.
Because that proves to the listener that I have actually not just done active listening, but I have actually heard what you said. So that's one behavior. I would say this is powerful. Then there's another behavior, and that's the shut the hell up. Being able to be quiet is very useful. I would also say that active waiting is extremely powerful. To know when to do nothing, especially when you work with customers. I'm not saying being passive, but actually actively wait until you get the signal which tell you now it's time to move to the next step. Too many salespeople rush.
Would you compare that to situational, to awareness, like would that be along those lines?
Situational awareness is not a behavior. That's something you need to master to do active waiting. I don't know if you are aware of the situation if you cannot actively wait. So that when I can see that you wait and you wait and you wait, now I can that I can observe. I would also say that what I also mentioned earlier, the power of questions. So know how to ask open and or close questions and when to do what. Have the skill set to ask red or green questions. Have this really be aware of that. Knowing how to ask questions that bring the customer into the past, into the present, or into the future. Very powerful. And then finally, knowing how to ask questions so it match the thinking profile of the customer. Also very powerful behavior. Very complex behavior, but very powerful behavior. And I could add 50 more things. But I think again, but you understand, I think, but having this blueprint of behavior, which you believe is really productive behavior, is the starting point. Like the dog trainer with precision know exactly what behavior they would like to see from the dog, second by second. I think it's that precision we are going for. Yeah. So Frederik, what else do we need to cover in the last minute?
I was just thinking actually that a question that I would like to ask, just for everyone here, once you either now or once you leave the meeting, is what would be the first question that you would put up? What would be the first question you would ask, not only to yourself, but maybe in the next meeting you're having, or in the future, based off of the things that we've covered here today. And if you want to share, I'd be very curious to hear what you come up with, because I think that's the starting point, because we started out talking about how we can go from a budget-based mindset to actually looking into the future. And it's a cultural shift for one to ask that question, what do we actually want? And I think we need to start asking that question before we can really change the perspective and the mindset of the conversations that we're having in the boardrooms.
Yeah.
So
Great.
does anybody want to share a question that pops up into their mind that you would like to be asking more frequently?
How are you feeling?
So Martin, you said, so how are you feeling? Yeah. And I would like to add that that's a fantastic question if you can see the person is feeling great. If the person feel like shit, you run the risk to reinforce what you don't want. So to just be, again, aware of when to ask that question. Yeah.
And I actually also have a follow-up one, because now, John, you mentioned that you're in the coffee industry, and Troels, I know that you are as well. Good to see you here. I'm curious of what you guys are trying to achieve. I myself have been in the industry for 10 plus years, and it's very, very close to my heart. So in that regard, what kind of brought you here, and what are you trying to achieve?
I can try to answer that. I've been in the coffee industry for 12 plus years myself, and I 2 years ago started a Norwegian branch of the Danish company Europa Coffee and Tea, because I wanted something more. I've been in leadership. I enjoy leadership. Now I'm a one-man band running around Norway, applying leadership to my customers. So I deliver coffee and tea to restaurants, cafes, and such. And in that sense, I apply my leadership skills to the managers there, trying to back them up, trying to make them comfortable, make them trust me. And for me, what makes me jump up in the morning is that I'm a lot more than just a supplier. I'm a cooperating partner that's helping them. The back of my shirt says make a positive difference, gör en positiv forskell, which is one of our main mottos, and that applies from farmer shipping us to our customers and how we treat the people around us. So that was the elevator pitch. Sorry about that, but it has become more and more and more important for me personally that I'm not in the coffee industry to make $1 million. That won't happen because it's such a narrow industry. I'm here to actually do something I love with people that I enjoy working with, and being able to make a positive difference to the community around me is what's worth it for me.
And maybe a closing comment from me, and you're really helping people get up in the morning. So
Thank you.
So I think with that, I think to respect our time, I think we are already a few minutes over. Again, if you want to know more about our personal leadership program, Frederik will be ready to talk to you and explain much more. And again, for those of you who want to know more, we are actually running a webinar with Gamma, an American organization for investment companies. You're welcome. You can go into LinkedIn. We have shared the link to that meeting. That's 5 o'clock today. And tomorrow, for those of you who would like to dive deeper into how to use NLP in sales, I'm hosting a webinar tomorrow between 6 and 8 Danish time, together with the Danish NLP Association. And if you want to join that, you're also more than welcome. It will also be an interactive workshop here in Zoomland. Okay. So having said
I just put in a link also in the comments.
Yeah.
If you want to chat more, I'm always curious to know where you're at, where you're coming from, where you actually wants to go. If this sparked any curiosity, I'm more than happy to jump on a call and figure out what's up.
Yeah. So have a great day and a fantastic Christmas and a safe New Year. And then let's see if we meet again in the new year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Likewise.
Today.
Take care.